Nathan Cassar. Welcome to another sweet episode of the Justice Plan Weddings and Podcast Show. I'm your host, Nathan Cassar, and today we have someone who brings the perfect touch of sweetness to every celebration. I'm thrilled to welcome Jenni Eaton, the mastermind behind Eaton Cakes, where baking and creativity meet to create the most delicious handcrafted cakes and cookies for life's most cherished moments, your big day. Jenni's journey in the baking world began with a passion for delicious desserts, and today Eaton Cakes has become a national multi-award winning business. With a reputation for exceptional taste and stunning presentation, Jenni has built a loyal following over the last decade, with many customers discovering her through word of mouth and glowing recommendations in the local community. But it's not just about the cakes for Jenni. She's dedicated to giving back. In 2021, she launched the $5 Love in a Tub initiative, selling cake cutoffs to raise funds for local charities. So far, the community has embraced this sweet initiative, and I don't see why they wouldn't have, raising nearly $350 to support families in need. That is extraordinary. In today's episode, Jenni will be sharing some essential tips for couples looking to choose the perfect wedding cake. From finding a trusted baker and sampling cakes to understanding the importance of reliability and customer service, Jenni will guide you through the ins and outs of cake planning. Plus, she'll share how her Love in a Tub initiative is making a difference in her local MacArthur community. Let's dig in and talk all things cake. It's one of my favorite things about weddings. Jenni, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. That's an awesome intro. I love it.
You're welcome. You can take that and you can use it for any other thing you like. I'm available on weekends. Actually, no, I'm not available during the week mostly. Jenni, look, I actually live in Parramatta now in Western Sydney, but I originally I grew up in the MacArthur region, and so it's still home for me. And what I love is that you've been supporting the local community for a long time. We're talking offline before we started the show that this is a real pillar piece of how you relate as a business owner to the MacArthur region, but more importantly, just as a person, as an entrepreneur, as a mum, as someone who exists within a local community, you've seen a real need to not just make great cakes. And mind you, if I know the audience, I can only just say it. You can't taste it, but I can tell you that our cakes that taste amazing. But you're doing something beyond simply just doing a great service. So how did it come about, that idea about the Love in the Tub? Because I'm really curious about that.
Yeah. So I've been baking for 12 years now. So it's obviously been only in the last 4. So the bigger that the business has grown, obviously we have a lot of leftovers, and there's only so many people that will happily take it each week. Oh no, I can't stop. They've got to stop eating cake. And I think someone just sort of said, well, why don't you actually see if people want to buy it? And it was sort of after the first lockdown. I know we don't like talking about it, but it was sort of before the second wave sort of came through, because obviously I'm like, well, I could just drop them to people, but then I said, well, earn some money. And I thought, well, I don't really need it because it is offcuts. I'm obviously being paid for the order. And so I went, well, I'll put it towards just the donations that I regularly make sort of through my family and through the business. And the rest is history. Yeah, sort of we're edging sort of slowly towards $4,000. I'm sort of just back to full time now with my kids now to school. So it's really exciting that in 4 years, roughly about $1,000 a year, that it's helping a variety of up to 7 or 8 of our local charities in the MacArthur area, which is what I really love. So, it's really just from having the offcuts of cake, and I love to add sprinkles. I'm a sprinkles person.
Who doesn't?
So, yeah. So, just a little bit of leftover ganache or buttercream and some sprinkles, and it's in a tub. Some people eat it straight out of the container as they're driving home. Some share it with family and friends, and it also can go in the freezer too. So it's just, like if you kind of just feel like a bit of a sweet treat, you don't have to go out, and it's in a nice sort of smallish, 1-2 person serving, depending on how generous you want to be to share. But yeah, so just purely just a little idea that we had, and it really has been embraced because it's a great way to try all the flavors. And the most I've sold in one go to one person was 9 tubs. She was sharing them. She was sharing them, but I filled a Woolies bag.
It's so funny, like when you buy that kind of volume, like you have to I'm sure she said very like a number of times, not all for me, not all for me, not all for me.
No,
It's
she
like,
did.
okay,
She looked at it and she went, "No, that's right. I'm not having like." So someone in the freezer, some were for her family and some were for her friend. She was dropping it, but it was just really funny that I actually had to get one of the Woolies paper bags and I filled it with these tubs. So she had a bit of a laugh when she picked that up. But yeah, but it's really wonderful because that's $45 that has gone sort of straight back into the community. I just have it in a little container, and as things are needed through my local charities, I just grab it out and purchase, whether it be toiletries, sort of grocery items, nappies as well. I've got some downstairs that I'm dropping off to one of the communities tomorrow. Stationery, or otherwise just financial donations. If there's a call out, I'm sort of quite big with those charities, and I support them as much as I can.
No, absolutely. And look, I've been a keen follower and supporter of you for a while now, since I joined the industry around this in 2021. So when you start, so I've only ever known you as the person who has sold the love in the tub, sort of thing. So I mean, I love that, and of course, I've had the pleasure of working with you on several weddings as well, particularly at some of our favorites in the MacArthur region. So I mean, it's congratulations on just following through with something like that and really making it an integral part of the way you relate as a business owner. And look, speaking to the perfection of your cakes, because they are truly amazing. Couples are obviously, cake is an interesting thing at the moment. Some, I must admit, are sort of potentially looking for ways to maybe not actually have a cake. And so the question really is it about, if they are going to really, because, I think people are still like, sort of like, oh, if we get one, it has to be good versus just a, whatever kind of one. So when people are researching a cake baker, what should a couple really be focusing on? I mean, obviously the taste, of course, but what are some of the key signs of a trusted and really experienced cake maker?
Yeah, for me, quality in that flavor is most important more than anything. Because I want them to actually be able to enjoy it, because you might not remember what the cake looked like, but I guarantee you remember what it tasted like. And it is very popular that, for example, I did one last week and one of the 3 tiers was foam, because they didn't actually need that much cake. So some, they only have 1 tier is foam and 1 tier is cake and the other 2 are foam, because that's their choice. They're like, look, not many people will eat cake, or it's only a small wedding, but they want that look. So I'm always flexible with what the client wants. But yeah, definitely quality is definitely my number one, is 100%. But then also just check out their reputation. Have they been around for a little while? I know when I first started, it was more just for people that I knew. Now I've won 4 number 1 awards in the bridal industry. Sort of a couple of sort of finalists in national things and stuff like that. So it's pretty exciting that through that quality and the customer service, that's really big for me. Again, like community, making sure I guess you see who I am, not just you see lots of pretty pictures. Like, I am who I say I am, not just like, oh, this is what I do and you see no evidence. I'm showing as much as I can behind the scenes. Shout outs to people, donating this to this community, things like that. So just sort of knowing who that person actually is, that you kind of go, oh, where's the website? There's no name, there's no phone number, like just, things like that. You really want to know their reputation will be upheld, because it is your wedding day. Every supplier that you use on your wedding day, you want to know that they come with recommendation behind them. And starting off is daunting. Starting off is definitely daunting. But for me, back in 2027, I started weddings. So it wasn't even from the beginning. I was very nervous. Now I love it. And I do weddings most weekends, which is cool. So, but yeah, just the, reputation and then also just, can you connect with them too? Can you meet them at an expo? Are they cold, or are they really like, I'm a talker, I do it well. No. But again, like, what you see is what you get. I try to really sort of show that. So just sort of, do you make a connection with them? Again, with any supplier, if they're part of your big day, we want to be as excited as you are. Like, I've got another cake. It's like, yeah, I get to, like, like, I get excited. Or when I see the beautiful florals that I get to work with, like, I get excited about that.
No, I love that you do that, and you're definitely amongst those that I consider to be, because I, as an example, like I'm the same as you. I believe that every vendor has a purpose and should be seen, and so I'm very, very sure to always make sure that I send the run sheet out to everybody. Every vendor is as long as I've been told about them. Sometimes I get surprised in the day, and I'm like, oh, they didn't tell me. But I mean, as long as I know that we're working together, I absolutely put you on there, because I believe that it's just a cake. It just gets cut up and eaten. Well, yeah, no, but there was
tastes good.
Of course, but you still contributed. It was still an important part of the decision-making process, and more importantly, it's a centerpiece. There's a moment that I have to obviously curate that out of the cake cutting experience and all that, and it just goes to the whole sum of the whole. And so I love that you are dedicated to showing sort of who you are just as much as what you're capable of achieving, because nothing worse when the cake gets delivered and it's just like on the table, out you go. And I'm not saying that that's the vast majority of cake makers in your ilk, but certainly there have been a couple of times where I thought to myself, that's a shame. Like, I mean, if only it was a better transaction of time. Like, I'm there going, oh my God, like, what a beautiful cake. And they're just like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. And I'm like, okay, fantastic.
But also,
I hope your cake tastes
also
good.
stability too, actually. It's funny that you mentioned that, because stability as well, because I've heard lots of stories from lots of venues that I work with, and the cake sort of starts to lean and like, or it can't be cut. There's been quite a few horrors. I won't share too many because we all have bad days, but I'm touched with, thankfully, in 7+ years, I have not had any of those incidences. But it does happen. And again, that comes down to the quality of their work. It does get let down, that it might have been fun when it left their property, but once it's arrived at the venue, if something's not quite right, things are slipping or whatever, you want to make sure that's corrected.
No, true. And it's also about that experience of knowing how to communicate with the venue as well, in terms of, like, this cake needs to be in this fridge at this time, that it can come out. And I've certainly worked with plenty of cake makers who have given very strict instructions. And so therefore I'm there aware of like when the cake's going to come out and how long it has to, for instance, I'm working with the gelato cake coming up at our favorite venue at Burnham Grove Estate coming up soon.
Nice.
And like, it's very specific, obviously, about, I mean, it's maybe sort of goes like sort of more intuitively, but we've still been told like it must come out at this specific time because that's how long it'll last. Fantastic. Like, that kind of information and experience really, really assists along the way. Now, you mentioned quality quite a lot. And I know, like, again, I'm going to put it out there. I'm not being paid by you. I can attest to the quality of your stuff. But obviously couples are going, okay, great, Nathan, you've tasted her cakes. But like, is it important that cake makers offer samples and abilities to taste it before committing? And if so, what should they be looking for in terms of the quality of flavor?
Yep, no, 100%. And I offer them usually sort of about every sort of 2 to 3 months, depending on how busy it is. So I've just done some in February, and I've got some in April. So that's a shorter time, but just purely because with lots of open days and expos and things happening, I try to sort of, if you want to get on board more than having to wait months ahead. But I've had some clients that have tried just a little sample at an open day and they go, that's what I want. And they're sold, which is really lovely. Perfect. That's a really lovely compliment. It's just that little sort of sample. Sometimes they still get the sample pack because they just love cake. But yeah, so it is definitely an option that they can try different flavors, because obviously, sort of on the day at the open day, you might try a few different sort of tastings. So at least this is, you pick them up from me, you take them home, and I add some cookies in there as well, because quite a lot of my clients love to have the little cookies as little gifts, and we personalize all those and things too. So it's not just the cake service that I can offer. It just sort of showcases the other skills that I have. But then, but yeah, 100% definitely offering the sample pack is good. And mine have evolved. It really has evolved over the many years, and I'm always wanting to try and tweak things. So like this year, I hope to add in sort of a little note card, so you can be making some little notes. Like, it's just little ideas that as I evolve, I want them to as well. So that quality continues to grow the more that I do. But from let's say 2028 through to today, very different packs. But still the same great taste though.
No, you bring a great point though, that it's those little touch points. Of course, like then it's those little surprise and delights that go a little bit above and beyond, in the sense that, I mean, are all cakes made equally? Of course not. But at the same time, generally speaking, there is a broad sort of, general spectrum of cakes where you go, okay, it's a wedding cake. Okay, great. But yet those little touch points and little sort of extra tidbits that you're able to provide along the way, are definitely going to have a great impact. So now, I have seen you personally do this before, when it comes to actually being there on the day, setting up the cake itself. You mentioned before about the florals you get to work with and so forth. Is this a pillar part of your process? And if so, like, do you coordinate with the florist to see if that's their vibe? Or how does that whole actual delivery and setup process actually work?
Yeah. So different venues have different processes, but most obviously sort of about an hour or two before the ceremony starts. So because generally the room is fully set up by then, just sort of extra flowers being added and things like that. So at least I'm not in the way of anyone. No one's going to bump the cake table, which is my biggest nerve is when I go to a brand new venue and I'm like, is the room going to be set up before I arrive?
No, fair
Purely
call.
because of that, I just don't want it to be bumped, especially if it is a multi-tiered cake. You want to make sure it's not moving anywhere, it's staying put. But yeah, so when I'm on site, whether it be the flowers are provided from the florist or from myself, I have worked with quite a lot of the florists in the Macarthur. There's some of the bigger businesses. I work with them regularly and it's not a problem. We just liaise with what we need. But, you know, sometimes I have surprises and I turn up and there's not enough flowers or they're the wrong type of flowers. But I adjust and I work with and sort of try to sort of either chat with the venue or the stylist if I can find them to make it work, to bring the bride's vision, because I've obviously discussed with the bride what they would like, but some are happy for me just to kind of be inspired in the moment on the day and create something sort of special with the flowers. But I can also organise the cake toppers and things as well like that. So it's just those little extra add-ons, as you said before, that I try to bring so that it's like, I'm bringing everything. You don't have to worry. I bring it all, set it up, and you just get to cut it and enjoy it.
Are people doing the cake toppers as much anymore, or are they sort of going by the wayside a bit?
I reckon probably 2 out of 3 weddings still have a cake topper. So for me personally, like with my supply Bree from Next Level, she's also a local Macarthur business. I just contact her and we get some samples in the font styles. And I usually say it's the same for the cookie stamps. So I'm like, send me through your font of your wedding, stationery, your welcome sign, your menus, so that everything flows through. So if you've got like beautiful initials on your signage, maybe we go for that for your cake topper and also for your cookie stamp. So just so everything all matches. So I sort of work closely between the bride and my supplier. We sort of do a few different font styles till they get what they want. But yeah, quite easily 2 out of 3 of my weddings, I would say, have a cake topper.
Yeah, cool, great. Have you been asked to ever do any like ones where you sort of paused a little bit, like, oh, that's interesting, but okay, whatever you like, I'll put that on top of the cake?
No, you know what? I have had the unfortunate where the client has provided a cake topper and it is too big or it just doesn't fit. Those are where my heart goes, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I just try to explain the situation. And again, that's why if you're happy to trust me, I know what I'm doing. I know the size that I need it to be, that it doesn't overhang, because some go, no, just stick it in anyway. And I'm like, oh, but if that's what they want. But, you know, that's why it's really great that I've got my contact that I know she's going to create exactly the sizing that I need to make it look wonderful, not look silly.
No,
but look,
it's a good point.
Some of the cool ones have had like, you know, like little dogs kind of like, you know, eating at the cake, and like those ones are really fun. They're not sort of like, whoa, but those are the really fun ones because you're adding your own personality into your cake. So like with anything, like your dresses, your flowers and the styling on your cake, you can certainly do that as well. But then we've had the fun, like state of origin theme ones, superhero, like, you know, like the hidden backs and things like that. So those ones are more fun, more than anything going, oh, I don't know. They're more been really fun. They're like, yay, I can't wait to do that. But I've done like wedding cakes. Those. I've done all sorts of different stuff. I've done quite a few. It's always a bit of fun.
No, it's great. And I love when I see those because I make a point, obviously, during the cake cutting ceremony to not just let it be something that just happens, because I think it is a quick moment, generally speaking, but I think it deserves obviously a bit of ceremony. But particularly when I see those kind of things you describe as like those little subtle touches to a cake and the cake topper and all the little things, I always make sure that people know about it, because obviously it's a reflection upon, you know, a fellow vendor, but also because I know that it's been specifically chosen by the couple to for something that was really special to them. And so allowing the audience to sort of like understand that was what they, you know, there's this little secret sort of hidden feature and detail to the cake before, quite frankly, it gets cut up and never seen again in that format. Like it's I want people to see it, otherwise, you know, and hear about it, because otherwise then, you know, like, okay, you see it in the photos, you know, like 2-3 months down the line, and that's fine. But I think there is something really beautifully tangible about it being experienced on the day. Like, as you say, like so-and-so's dogs being, you know, represented or things like that. Like it's little touch points like that you're 100% correct, add to the whole. It really speaks to the experience that you bring as well in terms of those finer details. So, look, I've got one more question for you before I'm going to throw a couple of rapid fires at you. And no, you'll be fine. I promise. It's nothing scary. Nothing scary. Not with some of your experience and caliber. But like, I'm curious because you talked a little bit before about communication and how that's important and how you need to, obviously you're addressing as many of the needs of your clients as possible. I want to really hone down on that and sort of understand more about your process, sort of strip back the curtain a bit and sort of understand about how your process is in terms of the communication process and what couples generally should expect from a cake maker like yourself who is providing top tier quality communication so that there's no dramas on the process. They know exactly what's happening and they know they're going to get their vision come to life. Can you explain sort of what, if a couple were to come to you, they book you, what's their experience going to be like communication wise?
Yeah. I'm really thankful that with being transparent on my sort of socials as often as I can, that I am human. So sometimes this isn't always the process. And I apologize when it does happen. But generally, when they've sent through an inquiry via the website, roughly within 2 to 3 days, sort of I get back to them with the initial quote or ask a few extra questions and things. And then obviously sort of a bit of back and forth, and then we finalize it with a deposit to book them in. And then, sort of whether it be 6 months away or 12, 18 months away, just, as needed, like might be to touch base about the cake topper or about some florals if they decide, or sometimes they don't even actually know what design they actually want. So I go, look, let's do, the 30% deposit and we'll touch base 3 months out from the wedding, get some ideas and things like that. Because obviously sometimes your styling changes, your vibe changes of your wedding. You might go from, a really kind of classic sort of to a really modern or, beautiful florals. Like it varies on, what you kind of go, oh no, actually we want to change, because booking a wedding far in advance, you don't always know exactly what you want. But yeah, so just sort of, back and forth sort of every now and then, but generally about a month out, we sort of retouch base with everything, confirm everything, and then finalizing the final payment. Any last minute bits and pieces, like if they're hiring a stand from me, or again, finalizing the cookies or picking those up, things like that just before the wedding. And then on the wedding day, I'm like, I will liaise with the venue. I know what time I need to be there. Leave it to me. So they've got that peace of mind that, and even for example, if I'm doing the Krispy Kreme donut tower, which is quite popular.
I know, I love them. They're so great.
Well, the leftover ones always go to the kitchen, and I don't know. Oh yes. I always go, I pick those up, and again, I make sure the quality of them is okay. I have sometimes stood there at the shop going, I actually want a different box, please, because I wasn't happy with them. So I sort of, just, it's again, that quality again, that I want to make sure that everything's sort of great. But yeah, I set it all up and I take all the rubbish away, and sort of make sure everything's sort of ready to go. So like whatever is required for like to have it there as the end product. Sort of I take that stress away from me. It's like, do you need anything from me on the day? Contact, my bridesmaid. No, I don't need to. I'm good. Everything's under control. And they're like, what do we do on the day? Just enjoy yourself.
Really
having that knowledge. No, but sometimes they do. They love to make sure everything's going to go off. And I said, well, that's why you put that trust in your suppliers, that we know what we're doing. And if we have to, we bounce off each other. But yeah, again, like I'm not perfect. Sometimes I do have hiccups and things, and I will be first to put my hand up and apologize when it's needed, because sometimes life happens and it's been a week and I haven't got back to your email. But again, as soon as I can get to it, I do. Just say, look, sorry, sickness, life happens, disasters, like things, but being real. And that's one thing that I'm like, I am a human being, and I'm also a mum as well, first and foremost. That's the reason why I do this, just to have a legacy for my 2 boys. They're my why, so they're always going to be first before the business. But yes, most of the time that's the process of how it works. There's just those odd few.
Look, you're dealing with other people. It's people dealing with people, and so at the end of the day, doing it all cookie cutters is going to take away the humanity that you described before. But also, as you said, being forthcoming, just projecting yourself as what you see is what you get is a really great sort of general way that I would argue any couple should be viewing their potential vendors. And I love that you keep coming back to the fact that they need to trust us, because obviously trust is earned and trust is built, but once that has been taken place, it is abundantly sort of important that that trust is played out on the day, particularly because it's just I despair when I see, like in my world, I despair when I see things like, actually I saw once where the run sheet was their screensaver when they like their lock screen, and I was like, no, that's the worst stress I can imagine. And yet that translates to other things. It's like, has the cake been done this time, has this thing been said, and it's like, guys, like if you had us all here today, you clearly trusted us to some degree, so just really lean on that. And if we fail,
and enjoy your day. It goes quick, and you just need to focus. And I often do so that you can't predict. Like today, it's raining. You can't predict the weather. You can't predict. Like I said, mishaps do happen sometimes. but you just, as Elsa says, you've got to let it go and just enjoy yourself. Like, my wedding was 15 years ago, and I was stressing about the heat. It was insane. It was 42 degrees. Things ran late. A couple of things went missing, but I remember that more than I remember that interaction with a guest or those little special moments. Like, I've obviously got photos that show those things, but I try to say to people, just let it be and just enjoy yourselves. Take that moment, because you're trusting your vendors to make sure everything runs smoothly, or if things don't always, we will make sure it in the end works out. No one's going to remember if a color was slightly off, or something might have been missing on the table. Only you know that, but don't let it ruin your day.
Very, very true. Couldn't, no more wiser words said. I couldn't agree more. Jenni, I've got a couple here for you. Don't worry, just whatever first comes to mind. I would love to know first, do you prefer beach weddings or country weddings?
Oh, I love the beach.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. Very, very cool. Which beach in particular? Do you prefer Wollongong, North?
Just any, like down in Wollongong is where I sort of mostly deliver to. But like obviously, like I don't do many, but if I've got a delivery down there, I visit the beach afterwards because I love the beach. Yeah.
I love that so much. Second question: what is the tallest cake you've ever done?
5 tiers. 3 were real, 2 were fake, but 5 tiers.
Oh, yeah.
And then the cake topper.
Oh, goodness. And I assume the bottom 2 tiers are the real ones, correct?
No, not always. It depends on your serving. So whether it be 5 tiers, 4, 3, 2, depending on your serving, I will recommend whether it be your base tier is your foam, or your middle tier is your foam, or your top tier. And obviously I remind them of that to tell their venue, because they're not trying to cut into something that they can't.
Yeah, it's important that I know, because I've been caught a couple of times where they're like, no, Nathan, that was I'm like, yeah, thanks for the information, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah. Cheers.
Generally, like, you're sort of cutting into the bottom one usually, because like you're not like awkwardly up high. Yes. Especially if you have a shorter, so sometimes a shorter bride, for example, like the whole thing's like reaching up high. But generally, like usually there's communication to remind of what tier is the foam one. But no, it's not always the bottom ones. Sometimes because the weight of the foam can hold the weight of the cakes. But I'm also using obviously support dowels and things as well, so everything is staying in place.
Oh, fascinating. Okay, well, I've learned something today. And finally, are your sons going to one day take over the business, become budding cake makers and so forth?
Will they make money would be the question, because my littlest likes to eat so much. He's my quality control checker.
Really? Love it.
Look, I would love to one day. Yeah, hopefully one day. But even still, if I'm teaching them the life skills of like, I work really hard, but this is what I get to produce. Like they're the best responsives of when they've seen a Sonic cake or a superhero cake, or an animal. Like they're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, can I have that? Your birthday's like 6 months away, and obviously they see 5 other cakes between now and then. They absolutely love 2. So it's like, let's worry about it the month before your birthday.
Do they get jealous of some of the cakes going out to people?
Yes. Yes. Does it have to go like, or I want that cake topper, or I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll just like, yeah. But yeah, it's because they're still young. They're 10 and 5. But yeah, it's quite funny. But I do hope that even just in the life skills, I can teach them whether they want to do baking as well. Obviously, we'll see. But my eldest helped me at one of the recent open days. It was a bit quiet, so he got a bit bored. But he was like, would you like a cookie? Do you want some cake? So he was interacting, and some lovely comments from the vendors were like, he was actually really polite, like, so which is lovely to see, that I'm obviously instilling some good quality into my kids.
Well, I think you're doing a phenomenal job. I mean, if particularly even just speaking to your community stuff, I think you're obviously giving them a great example about what it means to not only, make money and do good business in the world, and obviously all that kind of stuff that we should, all those achievement kind of stuff. But you're also showcasing that you don't have to be somebody that doesn't think about the community and other people whilst also doing that as well. So you should be incredibly proud of that. Jenni, how do people find out about you? And also probably some of them thinking, hang on, I want one of those Love in a Tub. So how can they get on their hands on 9 or beat the record and buy 10 from you instead?
If they want to, they can, yeah. So website and socials. So Eaton Cakes. Sort of on Facebook, it's Eaton Cakes AU, but Instagram's Eaton Cakes, or otherwise the website eatoncakes.com.au.
Excellent. And I remember asking you if that was your real name, and you said absolutely it is. And I just thought that is just It's just perfectly meant to be, and it just still gets me every time. Well, Jenni, thank you so much for sharing your light and your expertise and just your wholesome flavor, so to speak, in both ways of how what you bring to this industry, what you bring to my hometown, but also just generally being somebody, a vendor who really cares about quality and sort of standing up for the fact that our industry is beautiful. It's so full of people like yourself who care, and just I can't wait. I genuinely can't wait to try your cakes again. I know I've definitely going to be in my horizon this year, so I'm very much looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
No worries. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Just As Planned Wedding Podcast. Please like and subscribe to let me know that you want more videos just like this one. And of course, please follow us on our socials at Just As Planned Wedding on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more expert insights to help your wedding go just as planned.